Hey, I'm Gavin McCulley, host of The Pitch Deck, and today I have something very special to share with you. I have Alicia Surratt. Alicia is the founder and CEO of Pentegrion Capital, and a very active and engaged angel investor in the New York startup ecosystem. She's also on the board of directors of New York Angels. As a former entrepreneur, Alicia has a burning passion for building and growing businesses, and today she's going to share with you some incredible insights and wisdom. And I am so pleased to introduce Alicia Surratt. Alicia, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Gavin. So listen, I wanted to chat with you today because I realized after our conversation that it would probably be helpful if we set aside some time to talk to your audience about what should be in a pitch deck. And I thought it might be helpful because I get this question all the time. I absolutely swim in conversations with entrepreneurs. And I thought, you know what, let me just put this out there because if this can save some people time, or if this is helpful for them to review before they meet with me, great. Let's just put it out there to the community as a resource, and hopefully we'll do some good in the process. So what I wanted to talk to you about today are probably like the top 12 things that I think should be in a pitch deck. And would certainly welcome your thoughts as I go through it, but I wanted to do it in a pretty condensed way, and give some examples, and just hopefully this is helpful to the broader community of entrepreneurs. So with that said, let me just go ahead and launch into it. So first of all, this of course is my opinion, but I don't think a pitch deck should really be longer than 15 slides. And I don't know if you have different views on that, but for the most part, in angel groups, you maybe are given 10 minutes to present, right? So when you think about it, having more than 10 or so slides is just too much. What I did was, on my end, I went through and listed about 12 things that I think should be addressed in the pitch deck. And if you can have max of 15 slides, that gives you a buffer of 2 or 3 slides you could throw in for any given topic that's like more relevant to your business. So I'll go through the top 12 or so topics, with the caveat that any of these topics could kind of be rejiggered depending on what makes sense for your story. So like if you wanted to kind of lead in with how great the team is, and if that's the most compelling thing, then of course move that up. But I may hit that later in the process. But anyway, with that said, let's walk through it. So first of all, I think that the most obvious slide to kind of launch things is just very succinctly saying what the business does. So, we are a company that makes this kind of widgets in this market, or we are a company that produces this kind of service, and we do it on a global scale. Whatever it is, it should just be a very succinct statement of what the company does. So that's the first one, business summary. The next point that I would always address in a pitch deck would be the market assessment. So how large is this market? We are attacking an X billion-dollar market, but let me also add something on this front, and that is sometimes people cite market statistics that aren't relevant just in hopes that they paint the picture that it's just a huge opportunity. So you could say, hey, the global cosmetics industry is, a $30 billion market, but in fact, if you're not actually producing those products, that's an exaggeration of how large your market is. If you're maybe a company that's just providing services to some of the global producers of these products, then it's still a really large market, but it's just smaller than whatever that global market is. So the point is that in your market assessment slide, it's saying how large that market is and showing this attractive opportunity, but being very specific about what the market really is, and not exaggerating it. The next slide would be attacking what your barriers to entry are, or what's really protecting your competitive position. So that could be anything from intellectual property to patents, or if it's in a consumer realm where those things aren't applicable, it may just be proprietary relationships that you have, or industry knowledge, or access to distribution chains that maybe other people don't. But whatever it is, there should be some kind of slide saying, here's what a sense of our secret sauce is. Here's our ability to be better than any of our competitors. That, here's here's something that we have that's not replicable by others. So anyway, we're a few slides in. So business summary, market assessment, barriers to entry. The next slide would be something that addresses traction. That a company has currently achieved in the market. So what does that mean? I mean, that could mean a lot of things. It could mean users that the company has using their product at the moment, and how that's growing. It could be money that the company's made so far. It could be key partnerships that they've landed. It could be how far they are in development of their product. Whatever it is, it should be addressing some major milestones, or how the company has achieved some traction, some success in the market thus far, so people can see what you've done thus far. Then the next slide would be addressing scalability. So the idea in this is that, you know, somehow you're building a company that becomes so much bigger than just the, you know, the few people that initially started, right? It's a difference between launching a corner restaurant and creating a software platform that all restaurants could potentially use. So mapping out how the business scales. So that could be, hey, we create this technology, and then through a very small, tight sales force, we're able to achieve, you know, thousands of contracts. Or, you know, hey, once we create this product, we can then replicate it in markets globally, and that's how it grows. And our team stays relatively small in the process of that growth. Another big thing to address, another slide, would be sales and marketing. So that could be the company's social media plan, how they're getting the word out, whether they have a sales force, whether they're engaging in partnerships, however it is that they're gaining contracts, gaining users, getting the word out. Addressing that in some way, shape, or form is pretty important. Another slide would be dedicated to the team. So who's behind this company? Why are they relevant to bring it to a successful level? And also, to the extent that the company has created an advisory board, that should be something that could be listed on the slide too, so people know who are the brains behind this, both as direct employees and owners, but also as a supporting advisory group. Another slide would be competition. And I think you and I have talked about this before, is that, you know, that there's always competition. So you can't get away with saying that there isn't any, or that, you know, that slide isn't relevant for you. It could be anyone that is currently competing in the space now, but also any future competitors. So any deep-pocketed large companies that could come in once they sense that you're, you know, going after an attractive opportunity. And I've often heard angel groups say that they like seeing this in a grid format, where it's like, you know, your company versus all the current competitors and potential competitors, and then listing all the attributes, and then showing kind of checks and minuses to see, you know, who has more attributes than the other. And if you're putting this competitive grid together, you obviously want more checks than minuses or X's versus your competitors. But really showing it in a visual way like that can be pretty helpful. Another point would be addressing the exit strategy. So if investors are going to put money into the company, how would they potentially get the money out? So that would not only be addressing who could potentially acquire you and give investors that exit scenario, but also what kind of comparable transactions have happened in the space in the past to demonstrate that these exit scenarios are indeed viable, and here's what investors can expect in terms of maybe multiples of revenue for acquisition prices. And then the final 2 points that I would address in a pitch deck would be, you know, one, what the 11th point would be funding needs. So how much are you raising? In what form are you raising that in? Is it a convertible note? Is it priced equity? What are the terms of the note, the cap, the interest rate, and then where is that money going? So what are the use of those proceeds? If you're raising $1 million, does, you know, 300,000 go to hires? Does 200,000 go to marketing? Does tech development, what's the breakdown of where that money's going? And then finally, some sense of financials for the company. So that could be past results and also future projections for 3 to 5 years. So, what are you looking at for revenues, for expenses, for margins, and how does that look in the future? For some companies, that may not be relevant if they're just focused on users, but the projections would certainly be something you could do on that front too. So anyway, those are kind of the top 12 things that I would put in a pitch deck. The order again could be determined by the entrepreneur and what makes sense for their story. I'm a big fan of keeping slides pretty concise, so no more than 3 to 5 bullet points per slide, having something that's clearly a high quality deck, very visually pleasing. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. And just so you know, all of these things that I've mentioned, they're all things that are inevitably addressed in any kind of angel diligence process anyway. If you're part of a large angel group and they put together a memo, they walk through all of these points in a very systematic way. So it's pretty great when you meet an entrepreneur and they've already covered a lot of these things in the pitch deck. And I can also say, from personal note, whenever I meet with an entrepreneur, this is my own personal checklist. So if they send me a pitch deck, I kind of go through myself in a systematic way and try to answer all these questions. And anything that they don't address or they don't answer in this checklist, those are things that I would immediately chat with them about over our meeting, over the course of the meeting. So I think that what's great is if someone does go to the trouble and do all their diligence and make their pitch deck comprehensive from the start, it actually makes the meeting that I have with them that much better, because then I feel like it frees up time for us to, on these check the box items, we can really focus on brainstorming about the business. I can learn more about them as a person, and I can think about ways that I could be helpful to them, either through strategic introductions or strategic advice. So anyway, that's my brief overview of what should be in a pitch deck, and hopefully that covered a lot of the main things. The other thing I should note is that if you do go into a due diligence process with an angel or with angel groups, there's plenty of time later to get into all the detail, whether that's providing corporate documents or showing them a cap table, going over material contracts you have or legal issues, detailed employee information or other aspects of the financials, news that you've had in the press, or providing those kind of references. Like all of those things you can get into detail later. But for a base pitch deck that's 10 to 15 slides, all of these things are key, saying what the business does, how big the market is, what prevents other people from replicating you, where you are in your trajectory, how the business scales, how you get the word out there through sales and marketing, who's behind the company, who you're competing against, how investors get their money back. You need to build this business, and what your financials look like in the past and in the future. So that's that. And on top of all of it, I think what matters first and foremost is the passion of the entrepreneur and how much they believe in the business. And if you get a wonderful pitch deck and an amazing entrepreneur, then you're pretty much well on the way to going into a great diligence process from there. So that's that.
That is a phenomenal overview and instruction on putting together a great pitch deck. So entrepreneurs and founders who are out there today, I hope you took down a lot of notes from Alicia, that you got this information from a true expert. Alicia, we just can't thank you enough. I know that you are changing the funding game for so many entrepreneurs out there. And thank you so much.
Well, I hope it's helpful. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to entrepreneurs about this. And I look forward to chatting with you again and providing more resources for them in future talks. But thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this info.
Alicia, it is us who are grateful to you for sharing your wisdom on this specific topic. It is one that comes up often, and we look forward to staying in touch, connecting with you on another special edition of the Pitch Deck, where we will go into the issues and the topics that I know are burning for founders. I'm your host, Gavin McCauley. Tune in next time, and you can catch the pitch deck on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio.